You know, I've never seen another guitar with all these features.
Guitars are cool with Michael Weber. Yeah, that's me.
Guitars are cool. But you know what's really cool? Super Strats that physically can't go out of tune. I mean, this guitar is so in tune, I recently used it on a gig in New York City, and it never even crossed my mind to tune it after it made the 400+ mile drive from Ohio to New York City, and I even played a few rehearsals on it. Never tuned it once that whole weekend. Okay, so I get it. Guitar players can be traditionalists, and they dig guitars that inherently play way out of tune. I mean, what's the last time you saw a vintage Gibson with that lightning bolt bridge that actually had a wound G string on it? Been a long time for me. And it will never intonate properly. But people don't care. Don't get me wrong, I own and I love those guitars. But sometimes I want to be undeniably more in tune than any guitar player has been before. So we're going to kick this off with a test. I got my Super Strat here with my cool True Temperament frets and my Everton Bridge. I'm going to play a chord on. I'm going to play the same chord on an old 79 Strat that's been set up really well. It's a hardtail, very stable guitar, but it's a conventional guitar. And then I'm also going to test it out with an old Epiphone that has that lightning bolt Gibson bridge that's typically out of tune if you have a wound G string. I'm going to play a chord on all three of those guitars, and I'm also going to layer the chord so that we can hear three different chords on top of each other to see how the guitar plays in tune with itself. I don't know what's going to happen here, but this is the scientific experiment to see, does the True Temperament guitar actually do better against conventional instruments? So it's up to all of you to decide what you think's more in tune. Leave your thoughts in the comments section down below. The reason? It's all about blending in a mix. I've been scoring films, latest being Last Night at Terrace Lanes, out now on Apple TV Plus and elsewhere. And in these films, I've noticed that I've naturally used less and less guitars because they don't play well with comparatively more in-tune keyboard instruments and orchestral strings. So out of this necessity, I set out to develop an instrument using existing parts to be one of the most cutting-edge guitars ever. It's so in tune. But why is this guitar more in tune than a typical guitar? Well, the reason this guitar is cool, it's about these squiggly frets. This neck was manufactured by a Swedish company called True Temperament, and the goal of their product is to fix the problems that inherently exist with fretted conventional instruments. The concept is that straight fret conventional guitars are built around compromise, and this neck takes that compromise out of the equation. For example, on a properly intonated straight fret guitar, the third string, first fret G sharp, this note right here, would be very, very, very sharp. But on this guitar, it's pulled back, and you can see right here how it's properly in tune. And this concept is applied all the way throughout this guitar, up and down the neck. Chords that used to sound overly dissonant on a typical guitar have a place on this one. Sounds great. On typical guitars, I used to make recordings where I'd have to retune cowboy chords from chord to chord in a track, stopping and starting all the way through the song. But with this guitar, I can play through it without that annoyance of the tedious process. So it's a big time saver, but that's not just it. There's other ways that properly tuned guitars can be pushed out of tune, and that's from hard strums and too much left-hand pressure. Of course, I recognize that perfect technique can mostly alleviate these issues, but in the heat of the moment on stage or in the studio, we have to recognize that we're still humans. So check this out. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Abomination of guitar technique there. But it's still in tune. But that's thanks to this, the Everton Bridge right there. And these have been around for a while, and I'm really shocked how little they're used outside of the metal and hard modern rock communities. And the Everton Bridge is a revolutionary piece of guitar hardware designed to maintain consistent tuning stability under various conditions, such as the changes in temperature, humidity, or string tension. It's all done through an incredible series of springs that keep the tension at the constant. There's two ways that I use this. I use it in chording mode of total stasis, where I can't accidentally bend a note out of tune no matter what. So check this out. I'm going to bend the note as far as I can, and it will never change pitch. It's almost unbelievable. What that helps with is that if there's too much left-hand pressure or too hard of strumming, it'll always be in tune. But I also use it for leads. And to do that, got to get in zone 3. Now I got to get the string up to that pitch. So now you notice that right there I didn't have enough vibrato. So then it's all about getting it right in between zones 2 and 3. Now, that feels right to me. Now that way the bends and the vibrato are resumed and the guitar plays in its normal conventional way. Even though the guitar will never go out of tune, sometimes you'll lose that ability to bend after time or temperature changes occur. And it's always important to check that before a gig. I've actually had that happen to me where I went to play a lead and I didn't bend, and it sucked. Once you have that all straightened out from time to time, it'll play great. And changing between these zones is done by turning the conventional tuning, and that's how I was just showing you right there. You'll be turning it and it won't do anything until it's in zone 1. So now you're in zone 2. Zone 3. So if you get it right in between that, it's great, but it's freaky as hell when you're turning the tuner and it's not doing anything. Once it jumps into the next zone, that's where I like to be for casual playing, right between zones 2 and 3. So it's in tune. Your guitar can go sharp from bends, but it'll never go flat on you. But to make the most of this, the most super of super strats, I didn't want to stop there. I wanted to solve every recording problem with this one guitar. And one of the things that drives me crazy about recording is being separated from the speaker cabinet. I can get over the lack of feeling the power of the amp just as a person, but the guitar needs to hear the amp, especially when you're playing loud rock and roll leads. And the Sustainiac is a workaround for this. So one of my favorite ways of using the Sustainiac is to simulate having a live guitar amp that's very loud in the room when I can't. Because some situations, maybe the amp's in an ISO room and I'm in the control room, or maybe I'm just being silent altogether. In this case, I'm this loud. All I hear is the strings in the room, no amp whatsoever. I'm actually DI'd into the Universal Audio Ruby pedal. It's kind of like an AC30 in the box. But with the Sustainiac, with the flip of a switch, I got sustain for days. And I can use that to my advantage on leads. I'll just leave it on all the time. And when I'm leaving it on all the time, I got to kind of control the guitar the same way that I'd be controlling it if I was at 120 decibels with a Marshall stack. But I can do it now in complete silence. So check this out. It does the thing that a loud guitar amp does, but I can do it at almost near silence. Only as loud as the guitar acoustically is in the room. Pretty cool. So I had this guitar built with these 3 specs in mind from JH Guitars. I used it for a while, but my only qualm was that it was not versatile enough. It made Strat sounds, and that was about it. And I wanted to do more. So that's when I came up with the idea of introducing this pickup, the Seymour Duncan P-Rail. And this pickup provides 4 sounds. P90. single coil blade. A humbucker in series for typical humbucking tone. And a humbucker in parallel that is more reminiscent of a single coil, but it's also hum canceling. So it does four things with these little micro switches on here, and it's pretty useful. It may not be the greatest of any of these four things, but it's kind of the jack of all trades and maybe the master of none. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take you behind the board and we're going to place it in the context of music. And I'm going to showcase what this guitar really can do in the context. Because quite honestly, it's a gear video. We can just talk about a guitar, but that doesn't really mean anything until we see how it's actually used in the context of music. That's what it's all about. So now we're back to the board. I got the session file loaded up for a song called Rearview Mirror, a tune off my latest record. I got my dinner right here in the Nature Valley granola bars. We're going to check out how the Everton guitar is so in tune that it sits perfectly in the track and it plays along with itself in an absolutely tremendous way. So much that it creates a bed underneath the lead guitar, which is an old Rickenbacker that's kind of gruff. It doesn't play all that easily and it's kind of out of tune. But the track is saved by the Everton guitars that kind of provide a sense of glue to the track. So at the top of the tune, there's the high Everton, playing the melody hook. Now that's playing up at like the 14th fret, and also with open strings, it's capoed at the 2nd fret. And to have all that be so in tune is pretty unique. To have the 14th fret and a capo at the 2nd fret all be in tune with itself. Pretty incredible. Now you can introduce in the low guitar, also at the top. They play together so well. It's incredible. It sounds like one massive guitar. And to me, that's what recording should be. It shouldn't be this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. It should be one collective massive unit that is part of the same sonic landscape. So now we're going to add in the Rick. Now the Rick is not perfect. I'll actually just show it to you exclusively first. So that's double tracked Rickenbacker, totally panned. It's not perfect, but that's kind of its charm. If you put it in with the low and the high, massive. One of the other benefits of having the super in-tune guitar is I can introduce keyboards to make it even more massive sounding. And they play really well with the in-tune guitar because it's all devices that are designed to be more in tune than a conventional guitar normally would be. So in this case, I got the Rick, I got the high and low Everton Strat, and I got the Behringer Poly D, kind of like a mini mode clone, all together. And that happens a million times through the song. That's kind of the instrumental hook at the top, in between verses, at the end. It does its thing wonderfully well, and it's all thanks to having guitars being actually more in tune than guitars typically would be if we were just picking up that old Blackguard Telly, which I love, but it's never going to be as in tune as this guitar is, and sometimes you really need that. Now, of course, these differences are more subtle to some than others, but I really believe that this is cool. And you're cool for sticking around this long to hear me discuss cool guitars. Anyone can grab a Les Paul off the hook at Guitar Center, but instead, we're going to go deeper and deeper in this series and showcase some custom and unique equipment used by a professional like myself. Subscribe and wait for the next episode, because I got something cool as hell I want to share with you next.
There was a time when madness filled my mind, and all I knew was not defined. I was better see it clearly now. When I was cold, I wanted to be warm, and find a portal amidst the storm. I was all about learning how I'll get mine. It's just a matter of time. It looks brighter in the rearview mirror, getting further from the things I feel. I've come to find out that I'm not that scared anymore, and it won't be like before. Drive away with nothing bad to say. To where you are, I'm on my way. Oh, I hope that you'll be waiting there. And if I stray or get lost on my way, you know a part of me will stay, drifting in the summer air behind me now. Somewhere, somehow, it looks brighter in the rearview mirror, getting further from the things I feel. I've come to find out that I'm not